laboratory to talk to us a little bit about painting your hot rod versus painting your wet rod. So, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
If you guys want to get closer, or, you know, I'll move closer to you, but gather closer so that you can hear me and I can hear you. Last year I did one that was a little bit more formal, and then by the time I was through, there were very few questions. So this time I'm going to do it different, which is that, you know, I'm going to start with questions, and I'm just going to talk a little bit before the questions about how I do it. And then, you know, you can jump in and talk about how you do it and what you want to do different. The number one issue with me always is the particulates and the paint. And it started out that, you know, like everybody, I was using enamel and then the lacquer and then house color, and then, you know, even though I wear a mask and I cover myself, I'm still very concerned about all of that stuff. So that led me to switch over to the airbrush, which is going to deploy a little bit of less paint, but you're going to get better coverage. But I still use the rattle can. You just have to. So that's how I preface this talk. Make sure that you put your mask on regardless of what paint system you're using, because you're inhaling all of that stuff. If you don't believe me, put your mask on, but put some wadded up toilet paper in your nostrils. Put the mask on. And then when you take off the mask, you'll see that those particulates have come in, and it'll stain. It's like smoking a cigarette through an apple. All of that stuff stays. So protect yourselves. Now, with me, painting is a fun thing. I don't approach it with the idea that I am going to paint a show quality model, which I'm afraid is what a lot of people start out to do, and that's why they get frustrated. I used to paint one model at a time, and the frustration, by the time I finished, it was really high, because you begin to see the mistakes. These days what I do is I will paint several bodies at the same time, depending on humidity, temperature, and all of that. Before I paint anything, I buy a big box of plastic spoons, and I think this is a trick that Bob Downey devised a long time ago, and then he has it in his book. I read the book, and I thought that's a great idea. It's going to save you a lot of heartache. So I believe in that. Get yourself plastic spoons and do a whole bunch first. The primer that you're using, or a new primer that you might want to test. Then spray your enamel or your lacquer, and then your clear, and wait around. I mean, if you paint them in the morning, whatever's going to go wrong is going to show by nighttime. If everything is right, then you're good to go. This is how I have a couple of builds on the tables where I did it's the tester's one coat lacquer, I think, on top of plastico primer. Then I put clear effects by DuPont, and then I put DuPont spot clear on there, not knowing what was going to happen. I was just going to experiment. By noon, I saw that nothing was happening. The spoons were beautiful, and I spent from the afternoon until about 4 o'clock in the sun outside spraying, and I sprayed a whole bunch of bodies. So I do it like that, just because if everything is perfect, you should be able to paint one more body. So that's my thing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't do one body at a time, because it's going to drive you crazy. Don't paint your model thinking that this is the show winner, because every little tick, every little speck is going to drive you crazy. So, you know, if you approach it that way, I think you're going to end up with some very nice models that you're going to be proud of, without risking your heart, your mind, your stress level, all of that. You can paint with the airbrush. People who are fearful of the airbrush, I still don't know how to use the airbrush. My hands shake. I don't do, but I still do template work. I use tape, I put it on there. The airbrush allows you to put that paint coat on there. If I had to use my hands, it would move. I'm shaking. The airbrush is an easy tool for you to use. Don't fear. It's just a tool. It's this bottle of water. Spray you with water. buy one and keep it in your pocket, keep it in the car. When you're driving, just go, go test it, move it back and forth. Then hook it up to the compressor. Start playing around with PSI. Then start thinning your paint. That's the other thing we all fear. Is what is the paint ratio? Well, work with an eyedropper. 50-50, you take one drop of thinner, you put it in there. You take one drop of paint, you put it in there. And start working that way. It's a lot less paint that you're putting out with the airbrush than you are with the rattle can. Rattle can, you're bombing the neighbor's house, your car, everything. And that stuff gets in, yes.
In regards to airbrushing, yeah, I just started airbrushing about a year ago after 53 years old. And I hear all kinds of airbrushes that are out there that people use. I actually went with the one that you use, the Neo by Iwata.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, not a whole lot to it. And I'm just going to say, if you've never airbrushed before and you want to get started, I really recommend. It's not a real expensive brush, and it works the way it's supposed to.
Well, you should see.
It's very simple.
People make the mistake of thinking that that I get sponsored by. I buy the stuff that I use. And when I talk about it, it's not that they sent it to me and they said, look, bro, here's a free one, talk nice about it. The Neo is a lot better than almost everything else. I've gotten very bad comments saying, you don't know what you're talking about, the Neo is crap, blah, blah, blah. It's the airbrush that you are used to and that you like. I have nothing against Pache or against Badger. This is whatever you got used to. I started working with the Pache H, that which is just one single action.
Yeah.
And I still use it. You can spray primer with that. I do the clear coats with that. I also do the clears with the bling, as I call it. But the sparkle, the pearl. And some base coats too. But if you're going to do any kind of graphic work, if you're doing like Don Yos will do, I mean, he's that good. He'll do simple stuff on his bodies using enamel cut with the lacquer. But you need a little bit more time to get those graphic, the two-tone and all of that. That's when I switch over to House of Color, because House of Color flat, dries like that.
Yep, you're right.
Good to go. And it dries while you're using the template. Since I'm shaky, I have to put that template next to the body. So I just spray it, I do the airbrush on there, remove the template, that paint is dry. Then I can change it and do something else. The times that I have done work with enamel, it requires a couple of days. You do your first graphic, you let it sit a little bit, then you come back. Once it's fairly dry, then you can put the template on there. Sometimes the tape, just when you think you're done, the tape will lift a big chunk of your paint because the paint is still soft. But that's the only times that I risk my lungs when I use House of Color or any kind of lacquer system. I do it because I thought about doing some sort of graphic work on the body. Otherwise, it's simple stuff that I try to get out of the way. And I don't think, again, if you are if in your mind, and there's nothing wrong with competition. I mean, if you want to build a competition, high quality competition model, you can do it. Everybody does it. Everybody tries to do it. But if you're doing one body, and that's something is going to go terribly wrong. And I mean, the more I'm talking about at the beginning. Later on, when you get more skilled and you have your shop ready and you can temperature control it, and you've got your anti-dust bin and all of that, then yeah, like Don Yos has a cabinet. He paints a whole bunch of bodies and he puts them in there to dry out, and it's hermetically sealed. There's nothing going on. There's no static electricity, nothing that's going to bring the lint in, and so he just lets them dry and he's good to go. But I don't have that kind of. I mean, I open the garage door and I paint with the stuff out. In the wintertime, I run the air, the hose from the booth out to the side of the garage, and then it goes out. But the temperature starts to drop on you in the wintertime, and then the airbrush starts to spin. There's a lot of factors that'll drive you crazy. My thing is, do what you like doing, and do it with the idea that it's an experiment, and let's see what's gonna happen. But if you're doing it because this is the one model that you're gonna bring to the show to win an award, you're gonna get frustrated. The other thing, and then please ask questions. The other thing that I do, which is a little expensive, I understand that, is I build the same model twice. I might paint them both. If I paint two bodies, I will have an extra body and the extra parts, because as I'm painting, I am handling all of the mock-up and all of that stuff on the naked styrene. And then I go over to the ones that are painted, because I don't want to be handling them that much. So I test out, but it'll require you having the same kit 2 or 3 times. But hey, that's my system, and it works for me. So do what works for you, and you'll be fine. But it's a hobby. It's not a, I don't, people, you've heard, the fighting and the this, I'm better than you, and you don't know what you're doing. Everybody has to start and do it the way that they do it, and you'll get better at it. And better, I always remind people, it's like, how good do you want to be? Well, I want to be the very best. Well, you're never going to be the very best, because you haven't tested your stuff against the Germans, the Austrians, the Japanese. Some of those guys, the Hamiltons, right? If you're building dioramas, just when you think you're that good, somebody, and this show proves that every time. You bring your model and you go, oh, I can feel it. This is the year. Next time you look at another part of the table, you go, oh, there it goes. Somebody's always going to be better. And that, I don't build models for that. I build models for kind of the enjoyment of it. And I'm not kidding. I mean, I try to get better. That's what you do, but it requires time. It's not going to come overnight. Anyway, what are you using? What do you need help with? What's going on with your painting? I know that some of you live in the north, so you have to deal with the winter, and then I live in Florida, but that's problematic. I just went through half a box of plastic coat primers that with a new tip, brand new, grabbed it, went to spray, it would choke. I could reach over for the next bottle, it would close up.
Yeah.
I went through half a case of primer in one morning because it would just clog up. And it wasn't, probably the primer wasn't, it was the humidity.
Yeah.
It was horrible humidity.
Do you sand your primer before you paint or no?
Depending on what I'm doing. If I'm doing a rusty, I want a little bit of texture on there. But if it's shiny, yes. But I mean, you spray whatever primer you're using, you start to smooth it. You're gonna cut down to the plastic, so then you have to reapply another one. And so you go building a little bit until it's nice and smooth and it's ready to accept the paint. And at that point, I'd say hold off, test your stuff on a spoon or two, and then then commit. If you're really serious about getting that beautiful paint job, don't risk it. Test your materials out on the spoon and hope that everything goes well. I haven't had paint crates on me in a few years now, because I do the spoon. Otherwise, I mean, before it would just be body after body directly into the green pond. But so what are you doing? What do you?
You talked about how Don Yost does his cabinet.
Yeah.
What I found a cheaper way of doing stuff like that, get those plastic shoe boxes.
Yeah.
Turn the lid upside down. You put your rattle can cap down, put your body on it, you spray your clear, you put cap over it, put it on the shelf. No dust gets in it.
That's
the
it.
way I do it.
Yes.
Yeah. And you don't have a lot of money, just 99 cents a
Well,
box.
the other trick, when you have a perfect day and you get I spray outside and I don't have any neighbors, so nobody's complaining. Thank you. It's in California, I think you'd have to stop building, but I live in Florida, so I come out with a mister, and I mist the whole area 10, 20 minutes before I start painting, and that helps. That gets rid of some of the stuff in the atmosphere. And I mean, I'm surrounded by pine trees, so in the spring, I can't really paint anything outside because the pollen is gonna get on there. You started with a red car, now it's green, you know? But yeah, anything that you can do so immediately. Oh, this is the other thing. When I'm bringing cars from the outside to the inside of the garage, especially with clears, you see how the clear begins to blush. And so sometimes I stop right in the middle and I'm looking at this clear blushing and I go, is it gonna go away? Is it gonna go away? So I move back outside, I turn it so that the sun is reflecting off of it, and then you see it like fade out and return to normal. And then I wait a little bit and then bring it back in, yeah. Because of the change in the, you know, the degree change is gonna get to it. So that, you know, those are things that you can do to keep yourself sane. And with the airbrush, again, if you fear the airbrush, it's an irrational fear. And nobody, I mean, unless you are aiming to become an airbrush artist, which I guess if you're really good, you could be. Like somebody like Craig Frazier who paints motorcycles and real cars and stuff like that. He's an airbrush artist. But none of us who build models want to be that good. We just want to make sure we can get, you know, and you learn that rhythm by using the rattle can. You begin on one end, a little bit outside of it, you let go of the paint, and you stop way beyond. And you do the stroke thing, which is very similar to the rattle can, but you're putting out less paint and you're getting better coverage and thinner coverage. You know, so yes.
I've gone about as far as I can with rattle cans, and I'm fixing, I mean, it's time to clean stuff up to an airbrush. Do I start with a single action, learn it, or go ahead and get a double and?
I would say get a double action, but also get a single action. I mean, the pache and the needle.
I don't want to go through two learning curves twice. It's better.
No, but these are tools that you're gonna. It's a good investment. You get the pache age kit, which comes with 2 needles, 3 cups, the hose, everything. And that's single action, and you can practice on that, and then get the neo, which is double action, and that's it. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And then later you can do the primers and the clears with the age, and you can do the focused graphic work, whatever you're gonna do with that neo. And the neo's fine. There's nothing wrong with that airbrush. That's, you know, and you can't beat. Sometimes it's $68, $62, $68, and if you get that 40% discount, you're gonna get a heck of a nice airbrush for.
And it's a gravity feed, which means your paint, you know, coming from the top down, it's not trying to suck it up.
Here's the other thing that will burn you out with the airbrush when you begin, and I understand that it requires money, and not everybody has, okay? But what burns you out about the airbrush is changing the colors and having to clean it. How do you resolve that? Well, the way that the t-shirt airbrush artists do it. When you go get a t-shirt done, look at their rack. They have every different color, and then they've got a couple that are, you know, for hosing, whatever, flushing out. They have a whole bunch. And I mean, I'm not saying buy 12, but you could buy 2, 3 airbrushes, and now you have one that's getting cleaned in the jewelry cleaner, whatever those things are called. And then you have one that you're using, and then the next one for the color that you're gonna go. So you could do flakes with one, flakes and metallics with one, and you can do just regular paint with the other. And that'll keep you from going insane, because if not, I mean, I'm a little overweight, so I don't mind the exercise of getting up every 10 seconds to clean it.
Well, I've got 8 myself. I used to airbrush on cars with pinstripe, and I still got the Pache H that I got when I was 16 years old.
That's a fantastic airbrush.
Of course, all of mine are Pache, but it's just whatever you get used to. And of course, it was a single action. And now I've got the Pache Talent, which is, you know, you can get it in double action. And it was hard for me to go from the single to the double, so I'd get a double.
That's what I want. I don't want
The other
to
thing
learn
is-
something and then have to unlearn it when I go to the double.
Most of the time, if I say to somebody who's starting out with the airbrush, right, you're gonna try it out, you're already thinking of getting that airbrush and turning it loose on a body, on a car. That's a mistake. Get some papers, right? Get some ink and mix it with alcohol, put it on the cup. and just spray. Get used to the flow of the spray. You're gonna mess up the paper because you're gonna bomb it, and then you're gonna, slowly but surely, you start to learn the flow, the ratio of the flow and how much air and all of that. But don't paint your first, don't use it on a car right away the first time because you're gonna get disappointed.
Okay, good.
Yeah, 'cause
So
the first
test it
time
on
you do
paper,
that-
just get an old notebook, a piece of cardboard. I have a piece of cardboard, which you need anyway. I mean, when you're painting your model car, you need to keep testing it on the side to find out what the flow is doing, I work with a little moist towelette, and so I keep cleaning the tip. So a lot of people complain, oh, my tip dries, and then just keep cleaning the tip. So it requires stopping the flow. That's how it's different from the rattle can. The rattle can, you start and you keep going. You can't do that with the airbrush. You need to stop, clean it, and then get back to it. But I wouldn't fear, this guy, H.R. Geiger, the painter, the guy who influenced E.T., he airbrushes with his thumb. And now he's doing art, he's doing artwork, and it's just with the thumb. So I figured if this man can't spray with his thumb, what keeps me from, spread down and back, down and back, down. And that's the other exit, down and back, down. But it's better to have the thing in your pocket because you want to feel the tension, which is the other, but that's more complicated because you can adjust the tension of the lever as you're pulling back. And I usually like it a little soft. But depending on what you get used to, that's how you do it. But get a cheap one, and I had an Aztec with a propeller can, and I kept thinking, how many times are you gonna have to keep buying these cans? And because I didn't know anything about compressors or anything. Then I got a big DeWalt, and that's, you don't need that. You just need a little bit of horsepower to get you. Other questions you might have?
What kind of acrylics do you like to use? Like I started using the Vallejos, and I've noticed they dry so damn fast that the airbrush.
Well, the trick is, correct, but the trick is that there's a product that you can get by Latex or Gold, any of the art supply stores will have it, and it's about $8. It's called Airbrush Flow Medium.
Okay.
And that's how I thin my
Is it like just water?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can still do a little bit of water or a little bit of Windex or what have you, but the airflow medium keeps it nice and moist. It doesn't mean that it's gonna take forever to dry, it's just that it's gonna dry on the body, not on the way to the body.
I just know like my airbrush itself, everything's drying on the inside like within 5-10 minutes. And almost if you have to soak it in water so it doesn't dry. That's what I was curious about.
Yeah, or you could, like again, I use the moist towelette exactly for that reason, to keep the tip moist, but, you can, in 2 weeks, you can get comfortable with an airbrush and then start feeling like you can. You're talking about that's the other thing, the difference between using the airbrush and the rattle can is with the rattle can, you're looking at 12 to 18 inches away. With the airbrush, you're looking at 8 inches all the way to however, once you learn it, you can come in really close and put little dots. You get so good at it that you begin to do graphical work freehand, little dots. Okay, if you're doing a tank, you can finally do the camouflage pattern freehand, which is a big deal. So, you get good at it, but I'd say get your hands on a cheap one and start, and by cheap, I mean reasonable, good airbrushes, don't go to everybody thinks of the Micron, and that's $438 or $538 depending. That's for somebody else, that's,
You don't need that.
No. And then the other thing that you start to, and that's why working with a paper will give you all kinds of ideas, because depending on how you turn the airbrush, you can fog, you can fade, you take a little business card, and then you can start doing patterns, which you can do with a rattle can too, but it's a lot more paint. This is really delicate, beautiful in scale, elegant work that is simple. And the paint is already dry. By the time you need to change templates or what, the paint is already dry. But and acrylics, there are lots and lots of different kinds of acrylics. Use what you like. Once you mix it with the airflow medium, that kind of equalizes all the different brands, including using the 99-cent, what is that called? Full card?
Yeah.
Full card, or American Craft.
They work good.
Yeah, I mean, so you drop the card or some money. So other questions that you might have, what else is going on with your temperature and your?
Well, I was gonna ask you, what results have you had with the cheaper paints? Because you look at Tamiya, you look at Vallejo, you're talking hundreds of dollars to get a good setup. And then you see some of this Liquitex, which is a fraction.
Yeah, the airbrush is a great equalizer with paint. I mean, you can decant the paint and then use it, and you'll have success with any kind of paint. The question is, how much handling you're gonna do with that model. Once the model is almost on that plastic base that the little case, I normally don't handle them whatsoever. I do my engines with a toothpick inserted in the back, and that's how I touch everything. And of course, I'm shaking, so I'm making sure that with the tweezers I can put that. But I'm holding the whole thing on the toothpick, not on the, because eventually, it doesn't matter if it's lacquer, enamel, or acrylic, the heat and gunk in your fingers is gonna cut through and get you a fingerprint. So try not to handle the models after you get them ready.
Or if you really want, the surgical gloves work really good. You can get those.
Yeah, but the
Walmart sells
surgical
them.
gloves also you get, I mean, if they're cotton, you still, I mean, they can scratch, they can still, a little lint here and there. I just keep your hands clean all the time and try not to touch the model. That's the thing, once you put it on a stand, why are you touching the paint? Just keep painting. Oh, that's the other thing with the airbrush, that it's a godsend, which is that you're painting, all of a sudden you see a fleck, a piece of mint fall on there. If you're doing rattle can, you know it's over. Not with the airbrush. Let the thing dry. Sometimes by just blasting it with air in one direction, that thing will fly off. So try those tricks before you go, back into the purple pond. You can cover ticks. The airbrush allows you to repair painted bodies which you spend, let's say, 2 weeks working on. The airbrush will let you touch up areas that you've ruined or they've cracked. It's an amazing thing. The reason why I use flake a lot of times is because I don't like the way that the base paint job has turned out. And again, the flake is an equalizer. You put the flake on there with a couple of clear coats, all the mistakes seem to go away. Not the crazy. I mean, if something starts to go wrong with the system, there's nothing you can do about that. But the little mistakes, like sometimes you get a speck of dust. Let's say you're doing a black paint job. Get it? Well, you know what? Now it's going to be a metallic black paint job. You put the flex on there, and that little speck will disappear. Nobody will know it's there. So learn to make that turn without having to despair and throw the thing into the. Otherwise, you're going to take a long time to build the model, which is fine. I have nothing wrong with it, but I'm obsessive compulsive, and I usually give myself a couple of days to get it painted and get it done. And the only system I know of being able to do that is House of Color on the shiny side, and the acrylics on the rusty weather. So in terms of rusting, by the way, if you're using salt on enamels, you are going to have to work extra hard, which in the end it'll pay off, because you're gonna have to get an old stiff toothbrush and scratch that salt, because the enamel will stick around there, but it'll add to the texture of the thing. Whereas with the airbrush, it doesn't stick the paint to the body like that. And it gives you a nice in-scale look. So, and you see, I mean, on the tables, you're gonna see a lot of 41 Willises right now. I counted easily, there must be 22, 24 of them out there. And notice how some they look a little bit bigger than others, and that's because mine are painted with the rattle can, so I dumped a whole bunch of paint on those bodies. The guys who did theirs with airbrush, it almost looks like a different kit. So you look at that, look at the paint. Other questions? Yes?
the quality of the primer paint, then won't have to do too much with your finish. I mean, if you put cheap primer on it, and as long as
No
you put a
primer,
good-
but look, I can, he's here, I can blame him for it. Ken was the one who turned me on to Plastico. Plastico, which I think, Ken, are you still using Plastico primer?
Oh, yeah,
he-
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's all I
anything.
use.
Yeah, and I used to use it all until they changed the cap and then I went crazy. But remember, your primer is just a buffer between the plastic and the paint. And you want a good primer that's not gonna react with anything and ruin the paint job for you. But I would test them on the spoons, test everything before. I have a whole line of auto air colors, which I initially liked, but it was a paint system that I painted a few models with it, but it required too much work, and I don't work when I'm painting models. It's not about what I need to do to, you know, it's just, and that paint to me required a system where you have to dry it, you know, you have to lay it on thin, and it takes a while for it to get full coverage. So I thought, no, I'm gonna go with acrylics and or some other system, you know. So paint, you know, you're gonna find the one that you're comfortable with. I have friends who work for DuPont, for Valspar, you know, and they can get me paint on short notice. They'll get me a little 2 ounces of paint. But I don't paint that many cars that fast, so why am I gonna get paint to let it go to ruin?
The plastic coat, you can get it at auto parts
You can
stores,
get it
right?
out of parts. Well, what happened with me with plastic coat was that I made a video where I was complaining about when they first changed the tip on it. I made a video complaining, and somebody from Valspar sent me an email saying, "What's the matter with?" I go. I'm an old guy. I get used to a thing and I want that back. He says, no, we're gonna put you in touch with our chemists and our engineers. I go, I don't wanna talk to your chemists or engineers. I'm not a chemist and I'm not an engineer. I just want the thing to work. Well, they'll explain it, that you have to tilt the bottle this way before you use it and then back until that ball slides back. I go, no, take it, go, and you know, and if it doesn't do that, then, and sure enough, and they sent me a case of the stuff. I went through that case that day, half of that case, I ruined, and I was very upset. And
Are you putting your cans in hot water?
I used to, but in Florida, you don't need, you know, you need to put them in cool water, because they're already, so, no, I don't. No, none of that. You know, temperature is important. If it's humid, if you go outside and you take 2 steps and you're sweating, be careful. It's gonna be humid. So test, you know, look at the temperature, read the instructions on the thing, what's the lowest and what's the highest that they recommend, and try to stay. There are mornings when I wake up and I get that garage open and I just sniff the air and I go, today I'm painting 18 bodies. And I sit there and I paint, you know, as many as I possibly can, or I primer them or whatever. But you know, you'll find your way. And with both the airbrush and also rattle can, I mean, sometimes I don't want to go through the airbrush thing. I just want to do like metallizers. Once I get down to the engine and the chassis, most of the time I'm working with the lacquer, you know, the buffing metallizers. It's a lot faster and you're getting great coverage and you're good to go, just the same way, as opposed to sitting there and spraying. So, other things you wanna, we still have a little bit of time.
Well, since you brought up metallizers, I emailed you before coming down here and I asked which ones you're using. And you mentioned Vallejo and Citadel.
MIG, AK, I mean, they have all kinds of, they have different systems, and you know, I have a little bit of everything. So the other paint system that I use, which is fantastic, but it's not airbrush friendly, is the Citadel for Warhammer 40K, the Fantasy and 40K line. Those paints are fantastic, especially if you're going to do a little dry brushing. Great. Another thing, those of us who struggle with the chrome, you know, it's got to be perfect because the chrome's got to be perfect. No, it doesn't. you know, the kids have been given, the people who designed the kids thought about it, you know, and most of the chrome, when you cut them off the sprue, most of the time, you know, where you burnt it or scratched it is on the edge. Take a Sharpie and run it on the edge and forget about it. Unless you have people who are looking at your model with a magnifying glass, your eye is not gonna see it. So why are you waiting 3 months to send it out? I mean, if you wanna do that, that's fine, don't get me wrong. Work, you know, detail your build as much as you want, but I get desperate after, I just can't wait. So I use the chrome that comes with it. Be careful cutting it, and then tack it with a little Sharpie or a little dip, a very small brush, and again, run it along the edge, and you'll have perfectly good chrome. On the back of it, I normally will fog it with a little bit of brown and the gray and or black paint, and then you put it on there. That's it. So it's, you know, there are little tips and tricks that you go along. He left already, but the Bible of all this stuff, he's gonna talk right after me. Ken Hamilton knows every single trick, and that's time. I'm saying he's old, I'm glad he's not here. It takes a few decades for you to work through all of that stuff.
I think if you have a piece of chrome that's really bad, all clad works pretty good for.
Yeah, all that, or who says that you can't remove the chrome and then paint the front bumper and the rear bumper white?
Yeah.
To match your white interior, or, I mean, you gotta start thinking outside of what you want the thing to be, you know? But yeah, don't touch the models, you could, and I certainly do, but I try to be a little gentle so that stuff doesn't, you know, your fingers are always gonna be a little greasy, and then I put them in the display case, and there they are. I never touch them. And some of them have been there 10 years. I'm sure you've got models that have been around for forever and ever. In terms of the clear, I painted a Corvette that was absolutely beautiful, and I was showing a friend of mine recently, and I'm looking at it, and it's yellow. I hadn't seen it in a couple of years. The thing has turned yellow, and it's been sitting in sort of semi-darkness, and really yellow. So that's it, there goes the model. I mean, what are you gonna do with it? It's a white model with a coat of yellowed Testors clear.
Lots better.
Yeah, so
Is it the enamel or the wax clear?
it was the enamel clear.
So I've heard.
Yeah, the stuff that comes in I mean, it looks yellow, so yeah, it's gonna be yellow. But, you know, but that's it, what are you gonna do?
Have you ever tried the Krylon clear lacquers? And you
No,
can't.
the Crayon, for some reason, I have very poor luck with Rust-Oleum and Crayon.
I'll say that because I've tried and I've had pretty good luck with them.
Now, Rust-Oleum, the stuff that they make for metal, they say for all surfaces, but that stuff is really for metal and wood.
I ran through my airbrush.
Yeah. Or you can decant it and it works.
Yeah, right. Not great, but it worked good.
Yeah, but well, if this happens to all of us. You're at the paint store and you look at a can and it's really a color you haven't seen before. I usually buy it, and it usually happens to be Krylon color.
Yeah.
I tested it, and then it's sticky. I hold the spoon 2 days later and go, oh, this thing hasn't set yet. 3 days later, oh, hasn't set yet, and it's not gonna set. So don't use it. Come on in.
Better chairs up here.
So other questions, I've got 10, 15 minutes to go. Questions about painting, about airbrushing, about painting with rattle cans. Any questions about painting?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I knew you would have one.
You have a plastic model car body molded in red. What would you recommend to as a barrier so the red would not bleed through?
House of Color has but that, again, that, I think it's an A and B part, which I used a couple of times, and I thought, I'm never again using any kind of thing like Gary Rubin still mixes two-part clears, two-part paints. I don't do that because now you're inhaling particulates that are going to congeal in your, he says nothing will happen, but I'm not trying it out. What do? I don't know, you put enough primer on there and you hope that it's good enough primer to cover Or do a coat of black, and then you're gonna end up with, you know, but it's not gonna be shiny red, but it'll be a darker red. Or go metalizer. I mean, there are certain ways of getting, and I really have never had, it's yellow and red that usually will bleed on you. I haven't had any problem whatsoever. I usually put 3 coats of primer. I smooth it, I sand it a little bit. If I cut through the plastic, I apply another coat. I rub it and sand again. If I, you know, I just go building, and eventually it's smooth enough, and you're good to go. Or if it's red enough and you like the color that's already on there, just shine it and leave it in raw plastic.
Kid had a problem with the bottle of motion tomorrow, and it was molded in like a orange. It was bleeding through in the front. He went to AutoZone or Advance and got a can of sealer, primer sealer, and put that down, and then put the coat front. And it works.
Good sealer, but like I said, I mean, also color has a good sealer, but I think it requires mixing 2 parts and then fitting in.
Yeah, that's it. That's what
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, work, paint, I mean, if you can't get it to work, then obviously you gotta paint something else. Unless it's a challenge, I mean, if it becomes a challenge, then figure it out. But I normally don't take those challenges. I just, if it's not working, then I move on to something else. Otherwise, it's no longer a hobby, it's no longer pleasurable, it's gonna be great. Yeah, it's not fun. And once you have 15 bodies soaking in a tub in that green sludge and paint, you know, try to be as good as you possibly can and then build it. Don't worry about it. It's just another part of the learning process. Who else? Questions? We might turn the floor over to Hamilton. Who's not here.
When working with metallics or the pearls, do you put something underneath them to make them stand out? Like some people put silver or gold and spray on metallics, or like your pearl, put it over something particular.
I think normally, I mean, the darker the paint, I think the more sparkle you're gonna get, but that's not, I'm
Just curious.
Just, but the other thing was that I, like everybody, I went out and I spent, whatever, it's all the little jars of the, and I keep coming back to Clear Effects. DuPont Clear Effects will give you all the bling that you would ever wanna put in a car, in scale and beautiful and, you know, but you need to cover it, don't, because it's a clear effects, and, but if you start messing with that, it'll move on you. So you need to clear coat it at least 3 times, and then it'll work. And it's a beautiful, in the sun, I mean, you take any of my models out in the sun, it'll blind you, but not in these lights, but, so it doesn't do anything, but. Maybe we should have the next show out in the open, on the sunlight. Yeah, outside, that would be, you wouldn't be able to take pictures then.
In the middle of summer, it's hot.
Right.
Melt it.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other question? So, get a fairly reasonably priced airbrush, and again, don't think that you got to do models, think that you got to, practice, and then start practicing on paper. Bring it really close so that you see how it'll spider out, and you start making your first flowers, and that's a trick that you can do on, eventually when you get good at it, you can do these little graphic, little touches. Take an old comb and spread and you can get that on there, or an old fan brush, and then you can get like feathers, you can start doing feathers, you can do wood grain. It's amazing stuff, and if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I'm a shaker. I'm constantly, in the morning I shake quite a bit. But and you're not gonna give up the rattle can, but at least you'll have that airbrush out of the way finally. And make the jump this year. Don't put it on the Christmas list. Make sure 2016 doesn't go by without you getting started, or otherwise you keep getting it. and you paint that body, you make the mistake, you get frustrated, you put it away.
I mean, it's always gonna be room for rattle. I mean, like.
Oh, no,
Your
yeah,
frame
rattle
needs
can,
flat
yeah.
line. You go ahead
I
and
only
hit it, don't
paint,
you
I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes, if I'm feeling extremely obsessive compulsive, that's how I do my own psychology. You know, I sit there and I will do everything in airbrush. But in normal circumstances, I do the body with the airbrush, I do everything else with rattle can.
Frame, chassis, all you
Otherwise-
need to hit it with flat line. Go outside and 10 seconds later, you're done.
But, yeah, no, I mean, it's just to paint the stuff that you wanna paint.
You think to get a more of a good glass-like finish, it's better to put just one type of gloss on and then polish, or keep putting more gloss paint on top
To
of
be
it?
quite honest with you, I know that people will do they'll sand them off their base coat. I don't do that. If the base coat looks good, I clear it, and then that's what I start buffing. Otherwise, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, but some people will do the paint and then once again do the clear. If the clear, I mean, if the base coat looks good to me, I just want to preserve it as fast as I possibly can.
How long do you wait after the clear before you sand and then buff? I've heard
Well,
5 days, but
when I'm working with House of Color and I do the DuPont, usually the following morning I'm ready to go,
well,
you know?
it must be a hard shell.
Yeah, no, and you see it shrink, it'll wrap really tight on the body and bring it, and to the point where you think it needs more clear. And you've already put 5, 6, 7 coats of clear, you know it doesn't need any more clear, but it's brought it really down to scale and it looks absolutely beautiful. But with acrylics, I normally don't use any other kind of clear, maybe a little bit of dull coat or I know some people use the Future thing. I've always ruined Future. Future's very delicate in my hands, so I don't do it. But, I mean, if it works for you, do it. But yeah, you can get a shiny paint job out of acrylic. So it's just a matter of making sure whatever you're using doesn't react. And that's part of the fun. I mean, you're not gonna do a show quality model by next week. You have to put in the time.
Usually, if you can still smell the lacquer and you're clear, I wouldn't start sanding. I'd
Right.
wait until
Yeah.
the smell gone.
Yeah. The other thing is I run a fan. I leave everything I leave these fans running, and that helps quite a bit too. So I thought you were like, what? We're done. No. So other questions? Anything? Yes.
In your opinion, is there a entry-level airbrush?
Yes. I would say the Iwata Neo or Neo for Iwata is a good entry-level airbrush. And if you've never held an airbrush and don't know anything about it, go all the way to the double action. You know, don't begin with a single action unless you want to. Just start getting used to press. It gives you the air. Push back. It gives you paint flow. You press down, airflow. Pull back, paint flow. That's it, and it's just that action that you want to get used to that as early as humanly possible. The single action just gets you used to the airflow and paint flow at the same time, which is great. I mean, it's very similar to the rattle can. But just start with the double action and get that out of the way. And then you'll get better and better and better at it. Yeah, and for the price, I don't think you can get a better airbrush than that, And, Don and I have those arguments because he loves the Pache H, and it's a fine airbrush, but it's single action.
It's just whatever you start out with.
Yeah, and sometimes I want, like with House of Color, I dry it very quickly with a couple of blasts of air, all you have to do is hold it down. Don't pull back because you're gonna let the paint out.
Yeah.
Hold it down, and it's just air, and it's gonna dry everything on you very fast. So, and it's better than putting the airbrush down and then getting the hair dryer. And you can get those cheap. Save those Hobby Lobby, 40, 50%.
Yeah.
And I also suggest if you don't want to spend a lot of money on a compressor to start out with, Testers makes a really nice one that Hobby Lobby sells. It's $75. Use your coupon. You can't control the air pressure. It runs at about 40, but just for starting out,
It's about how much is it?
I think it's 75. It's made by Testers.
Here's a Neo at Hobby Lobby, $79.
Yeah, but use your coupon
Right.
for 40% off.
But a note on compressors, look, like I use an Iwata that's like 1.8 or something like that. It gives me between 25 and maybe 45 PSI. And normally that's all I need. But I recommend that if you're gonna harp on PSI, then wait for a sale around this time of year. You can get one of those big little squat units for $89.
Yeah.
That'll give you up to two pounds
Yeah.
of pressure. And if you wanna, I mean, like if you're gonna be doing House of Color and Sickens and all of those high level, you're gonna need at least 55 pressure to get that paint going. But if you're doing small scale stuff, you don't really need any more than 45, 50. So a small unit will do, but you can get a better deal on those than the hobby dedicated units sometimes. 119, 98.
You can do, I've got one from Harbor Freight, one's a little 2.5 paint, it's
Yeah, that's-
$49.
yeah, that's
And it goes
it,
up to
yeah.
150 PSI.
Now, the fittings you can get, if you're good at plumbing, you can do the fittings. If not, get a plumber to tell you exactly what kind of fittings you're gonna need so that you do the air moisture, and then you could do a manifold with 2 leads out, so that that's the other thing. You can hook more than one airbrush to the, that's the other, you don't have to keep switching hoses. It's there, and you just switch the, the brush.
The only thing I found out, if you get one that has, I call it the container to go with it.
Yeah.
You do have to worry about moisture buildup.
Right.
Whereas if you, some of the other ones, I'm saying the Testers is gonna be better, but it's just straight driven. It doesn't have the air can hides. You don't have you shouldn't have any issues with water buildup or anything.
Will moisture trapping lines take care of that?
Hopefully, you just don't wanna get moisture.
Yeah, but on my moisture trap, I usually put a paper towel or just put it in there. I used to use toilet paper, but toilet paper has a lot of stuff that will come up. Just put a little paper towel and it'll absorb the extra moisture. But if you're working, again, some people stress out over that. If I'm working with acrylics and the airbrush spits a bunch of water on the paint job, it's just water. I mean, it'll dry off, and then it'll leave a stain. We'll get another little coat on there, and it'll go away. Why are you going crazy? But that's the mentality of I'm building this year's, best in show, and good luck. I mean, a lot of people do it, but that's a nervous system being ruined on a day. All right, so I think Hamilton is back.
Now, let's thank Dr. Cranky for coming. Really appreciate it. And don't forget about all this stuff on YouTube. Lots of great,
Yeah, watch
lots
the
of
show.
great videos.
Watch the show. Tell friends.
You have a card, what's your website, or?
No, it's just Dr. Cranky. It's on there. It'll pop up.
Fine.
Yeah.